Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wasallam tasliman kathiran kathira. Fama ba'du. My brothers and sisters, there is a misunderstanding among some Muslims that it is not necessary for a Muslim living in a land which has a non-Muslim government to obey the laws of the land, because these are, within quotes, man-made laws and not divine, and because the country is not an Islamic Khilafah. That belief is totally false. The first thing to note is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in His kitab, in His book Al-Quran Al-Kareem. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, the first ayat of Surah Al-Ma'idah, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا أوفوا بالعقود. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, which means, O you who believe, fulfill your obligations, your oaths, your promises, your contracts. Any ayah that begins with a direct address is a hukum, it's a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala which we are obliged to obey. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is commanding us, those who believe in Him, to honor our covenants and fulfill our promises and contracts, no matter who we contracted with. When we live in any country, no matter for what duration, whether it's for a day, whether you're passing through, whether you are a tourist, whether you are a resident, a citizen, non-citizen, we enter into an oath or obligation that we will be entitled to enjoy all that the country offers, its freedoms, privileges, benefits and opportunities, in return for which we will obey the laws of the land and never do anything detrimental to the welfare of that land or its people. This covenant applies no matter what your visa status is. For this we are accountable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Abdullah bin Amr radiallahu anhu narrated that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said there are four characteristics. Whoever has them is a hypocrite, and whoever has one of the four has one characteristic of hypocrisy unless he gives it up. And what are those four characteristics? Number one, when he speaks, he lies. Number two, when he makes a promise, he breaks it. Number three, when he makes a pledge, he betrays it. And number four, when he disputes, he resorts to foul language. And this is a muttafaqun alayhi hadith agreed upon in Bukhari and Muslim. It is a religious obligation for a Muslim to keep his promises and to behave truthfully and respect other people's rights. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, which means, وَأَوْفُوا بِعَهْدِ اللَّهِ إِذَا أَحَدْتُمْ وَلَا تَنْقُضُوا الْأَيْمَانَ بَعْدَ تَوْكِيدِهَا وَقَدْ جَعَلْتُمُ اللَّهَ عَلَيْكُمْ كَفِيلًا إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَعْلَمُ مَا تَفْعَلُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, which means, fulfill the covenant of Allah when you have taken it, and do not break oaths after their confirmation while you have made Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a witness over you. Verily, Allah knows what you do. It is forbidden, haram, for a Muslim to betray anyone to whom he or she has given a privilege or promise, no matter how small or big we may think it is. For example, someone tells us something in confidence and we listen to that person and promise to keep their secret. Then we go to somebody else and we say, I'm saying this only to you, but so and so said this. And we tell them what the other person told us in confidence. Now may Allah save us from ourselves. Some people are like CNN with two legs. We don't consider this action to be anything serious, but believe me, this is an enormous sin which can result in severe punishment and humiliation for us in the hereafter. Trust is the basis of izzah, of prestige, of honor. Trust is the result when we honor contracts and we stand by our word. Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu reported that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, إِذَا جَمَعَ اللَّهُ الْأَوَّلِينَ وَآخِرِينَ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ يُرْفَعُ لِكُلِّ غَادِرٍ لِوَاءٌ فَقِيلَ هَذِهِ غَدْرَةُ فُلَانِ ibn Fulan. In this hadith in Bukhari and Muslim muttafaqun alayh, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gathers awwalina wal akhirin, the earlier generations and the later generations, which means all humanity, on the day of resurrection, He will raise a banner for every treacherous person, and it will be announced that this is the treachery of this person, the son of this person. May Allah have mercy on us. The general rule is that a Muslim should obey those in authority so long as they do not command us to commit sins. Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu reported that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, listening to and obeying the leader is an obligation fard as long as he does not command disobedience of Allah. If he commands disobedience, then there is no listening to him or obedience. And this is in Bukhari. We must obey the law of the land in which we live as a matter of being true to our religion, which prohibits us from violating our contract of residence or citizenship. A Muslim is not permitted to do anything which can cause harm to others in any way, whether they are Muslim or not. If any law is against the Sharia of Islam, then a Muslim is not permitted to obey the law, but must protest against it and try to have it changed or have himself exempted, failing which he must leave, make hijrah to another land where he or she can live in accordance with the laws of Islam. This is as per the famous hadith of Hassan ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhuma, who narrated from his grandfather Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who said, there is no obedience of the creation wherein there is disobedience to the Creator. And this is in Musnad Imam Ahmad. To obey all laws that are meant for public safety, security, human rights, environmental protection, and the general benefit of society is fard in Islam. Driving through a red light, for example, not wearing seat belts, driving without a license, parking in zones and places where you are not entitled to park. Let me leave you to add to this list. All of these are not only illegal acts, but they are major sins of betraying our contract with the nation and punishable by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a violation of huququl ibad, as a violation of huququl ibad. And about this, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not forgive a person unless the people forgive him. Right? Now, we live in a country which is based on trust. The very fact that we left our countries, our home countries, to come and settle here is either a sign of mental illness, our mental illness, because we must be crazy if we do that. If this country is not better than where we left, then why are we here? Or that life is indeed better than it was back home. Let us face that fact, that first, and thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first, that He permitted us to make this hijrah. Now let us turn that into a real hijrah from this moment onwards by living our lives here to demonstrate the goodness of Islam to the world. Remember that there may be no cop or camera to catch us, but there is Allah. To remember this and to act upon it is our meter, our indicator of the health of our iman and the strength of our taqwa. Think about this. Not only does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibit us from breaking laws that are made for the benefit of people, but He also prohibits us from doing things which may be legal, but which are harmful to people and the world. That is the reason why interest-based transactions, selling lottery, cigarettes and tobacco products, alcohol, marijuana and other intoxicants, pornography and all things that are legal here are prohibited and haram in Islam. Some people argue and say that we are living in Darul Harb and so we don't have to follow man-made rules of this place. This is because we don't understand the basis of the Sharia. In the Sharia itself, there are two kinds of laws, the divine and the juristic. Divine laws are those decreed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, or those decreed by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a result of wahi, which we call wahi ghair matlu, the wahi which is not recited in salah, which he received from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prohibited pork in the Quran, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam prohibited the flesh of donkeys and all carnivorous animals and birds. Both are divine laws, and to break them is haram. Juristic laws refer to laws made by the collective wisdom of our great scholars and by the individual understanding of one or a few of them, of these great scholars. The key word is scholar, as in the traditional understanding of both knowledge and its practice. Not simply how much the scholar knows, but how much the scholar practices Islam. Among these juristic rulings would be laws relating to organ donation, Islamic finance, and so on, which were not there, these issues were not there at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The inviolable caveat, the boundary condition in all such rulings of ijtihad by ijma' and qiyas is that it must not violate any ruling of the Quran or the Sunnah, any ruling of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. For example, no collection of scholars of the whole world at any point in time can make interest-based dealings halal until the end of time, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made them haram. Therefore, in a way, all juristic laws in the Sharia are also man-made, but they are law in Islam, and we are obliged, and it is fard for us to obey those laws. The issue is not about whether a law is divine or not. It's about what it is and if it must be obeyed by Muslims. The short answer is, if it is for the benefit of people, it must be obeyed as long as it does not violate any Islamic law. There are three kinds of situations that a Muslim may be living in the world: Darul Harb, Darul Aman, and Darul Islam. Let me define these three for you. Darul Harb is a place of war. This is a place which is ruled by non-Muslims, where Muslims live in a state of captivity. They have been captured and they are prisoners in some form. In this place, Muslims are not permitted to practice their religion, and they face persecution and danger, maybe imprisonment, maybe death, maybe fines, if they try to do that. In Darul Harb, Muslims have three options: either to migrate to a place which is a Darul Islam or at least a Darul Aman, where they can practice Islam, or to use all legal means to seek to end the oppression, or try to practice Islam as much as they can and bear the hardship seeking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help. If they are so weak that they can't leave, they have no way of going, and they cannot resist the persecution, then they have someone, they bear it, and they ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His help. Now there is no question in that situation, when you are a captive, when you are in this situation of taking loans to buy and build houses and to build businesses and do haram businesses and so on, where is the question of doing that? In Darul Harb, right? And then in that process, when you need the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, instead to buy the enmity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instead of His help. Those who migrate to the West and they call it Darul Harb, the question is, if you really think it is Darul Harb, then why do you go there? We are supposed to escape from Darul Harb, not to go there. Second place, Darul Aman, is a place of peace. This is a place which is still ruled by non-Muslims, but where you are not a captive and you live freely. You may have gone there voluntarily, you may have been born there, but you live freely, there's nothing to stop you. You are not constrained in any way from practicing your deen. You can do that openly, and there's no danger, without any danger. Now quite clearly, there is nothing to prevent us, if we live in such lands, from following the Sharia. We must live in accordance to those laws. There are no exceptions to obeying the laws of the Sharia while living in Darul Aman. All laws of the Sharia apply. In Darul Aman, the Muslim is also obliged to obey the laws of the land as long as those are not in conflict with the Sharia. Laws that are for the general good of the population, which is paying taxes and all traffic laws and civic laws and environmental protection laws and so on, must be obeyed totally and completely. Darul Islam is a place of Islam. This is the land of the Muslims where the rulers are Muslim and the Sharia is enforced. This is a country where the only law is the law of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the ruler is the Khalifa, Amirul Mu'mineen. In such a place, all the laws of the Sharia will apply and be enforced. Should I ask you where such a place exists today? At best, if I can even use the word best, today we have Muslim countries which apply the Sharia sectionally. In some Muslim countries, they apply the criminal law and the punishments, but in the same breath, they permit gambling and the sale of alcohol and tobacco and interest-based banking. In some Muslim countries, they have differential laws for payment and benefits for migrant workers and citizens. Migrant workers have no rights, they are underpaid, they are ill-treated, and they have no recourse to the law to redress any injustice that is done to them. At the same time, we stand on the mimbar and we tell stories about the golden age of Islam, the Khilafah Rashida, during which, for example, one of the stories we are very fond of telling is where Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, during his Khilafah, he was the Amir. He brought a case against a Jewish pawnbroker before the court. We quote this and such other stories as examples of Islam's justice. Qadi Shuraikh, one of the most famous of the judges in Islam, refused in that case. Qadi Quraish, who was one of the most famous judges of Islam, he refused to accept the witness of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu's son, Hassan bin Ali radiallahu anhu, and then his freed slave, and he ruled against the Amir al-Mu'mineen. Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anhu walked away from this case completely satisfied with the judgment. The Jewish man was astounded. He asked Sayyidina Ali bin Abi Talib radiallahu anhu why he was not unhappy though he had lost the case. Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu told him that he was happy because the judge upheld the law of Islam. The Jewish man was so impressed that he accepted Islam and he gave the shield and then he became a companion of Sayyidina Ali, a very close companion of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anhu, until this man passed away in one of the battles. Now, nice story, but tell me if this can happen in any Muslim country today. On the other hand, when George Bush Jr. was president, his daughter was given a citation. She was charged for being in possession of alcohol as a minor. She was 19 at the time. Neither her father nor anyone else stopped that. Most recently, the police chief of Tampa lost her job because she flashed her badge at the policeman who stopped her for a driving offense. It's the hallmark of Islam that the law is supreme, not even the ruler, the law. That is why it is so important to ingrain this in our children. We live in countries where we benefit in multiple ways that we couldn't hope to do in our own homelands. Here we are under the spotlight 24/7. This is very important to understand that. This is an enormous opportunity to showcase Islam by our behavior. So let us use it consciously. When we park in handicapped slots or fire lanes, when we drive without seat belts or we drive recklessly, overspeeding, when we park illegally in other people's spaces, we are not only breaking the law of the land, but we are committing a sin against our neighbors, which will make us liable for punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even if we never get caught in this life. It is really that simple and that serious. My brothers and sisters, the world listens with its eyes. They don't care what we say until they see what we do. Our actions speak so loudly that they drown out the sound of our voice. When we park badly, or drive badly, or speak badly, or deal with someone badly, it is not that transaction which is important, but the message that we are giving to the world. about who we are. Our actions are our signature. When we respect the law, we are saying, I am trustworthy. I care for myself and my neighbors. I am someone you can rely on. The opposite is equally true. We are saying, don't trust me. In my consulting practice, I screen people for senior leadership positions. I've done that for many companies, including General Electric. I've written a book called Hiring Winners. My principle is hire attitude, train skills. And behavior indicates attitude. You don't have to say anything. Your actions tell me all that I need to know. That is why I would not hire someone who parked in a handicapped slot, or in a fire lane, or drives recklessly, or swears and uses profanity and foul language, no matter what his other qualifications are. If I cannot trust you, the rest doesn't matter. وصلى الله على نبي الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.